Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Awesome Life Podcast. I'm Karen Stultz, your host, and I am here today with the most amazing, wonderful lady, Allison Hammond. As you know, in Awesome Life, things get in the way, things show up that we might have a little difficulty thinking that we can even do or move forward or break through. And that's what Awesome Life Podcast is all about, to show you that there are ways of breaking through to be a better person, to be more of who you were meant to be. And Allison is the most awesome person to share this information with. We have connected before. As you know, we always connect. I always connect with my potential guests. And when I met with Allison, I just thought, yes, she has a message and a philosophy and an ability, a proven program that can really help people lead that awesome life in their awesome business. So let me tell you a little bit about Allison and what she does and who she is. She actually is so cool. She creates a facilitation with graphics. She's a graphic facilitation to create visual plans. It's more than a vision board. She can actually create visual plans using your gifts, skills, and knowledge, and helps you with the next steps to get there. Allison starts with people first to describe that vision, the gifts of the people who are present, and who is available, helps them recognize who is available in their community so that they can grow, and finding people to be accountable to, because of course, without accountability, oftentimes things don't work out the way you would like to have them work out. Allison has created a company called Response-Able People. Response-Able People. That's actually responsible is one word, but that's how you pronounce it. To help people and groups design plans based on their gifts, their skills and knowledge through the processes using that graphic facilitation. And this comes from a lifelong passion for bringing people together in community for better lives. She actually has a degree in dance as well as a doctorate in education. Education leadership, which is what we need more than anything, leadership, along with a lot of training in planning processes. And she's blended it with her ability to lead individuals and groups to create a plan that builds community, productive teamwork, and shared accountability. So welcome, Allison. I'm so happy
so much,
Karen.
And thank you, Karen. I'm really glad to be here, and I appreciate so much the invitation.
Oh, absolutely. Well, like I said, when I met you, I just knew you would be ideal in our awesome life to help the people that listen to this. But tell us a little bit more. How did this all come about, this response-able?
Well, as you were saying response-able people, I thought, well, maybe I would start with talking where I came up with that word, response-able. So a while back, I also have a background in early childhood. And so I actually wrote a picture book for parents and did a newsletter. And I called it Response-Able Children, because I was hoping that parents could raise their children to be, of course, responsible, but response-able in the world around them. And so when I was thinking of a name for my business, I just went back to that word because so much of what we do in our lives is reactionary. And what I'm hoping through these planning processes that I use, people can find ways that they can respond to their next steps and what they need to do, rather than reacting to what's in front of them, or or getting stuck. So they're able to respond and keep moving forward. So that's why I like that. And the other thing is that I added and company. So right now I am technically by myself, but I can't do any of my processes by myself. I need the person or the small group that I'm working with. And then if I'm working with an individual, I need them to invite some people from their community to be part of the process. And so those are the people that become and company, because I cannot do the work that I do in a vacuum just by myself. I always have to have people. So I have to have and company.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Well, it takes a village, doesn't it? You do need to have the and company. And I was actually listening to something yesterday actually, that said in the mystical astrological world, this week in particular, we need to reach out and be with people, because certainly this past year has kept us from having that. So even if it is simply having those people, that company, work with you via Zoom, which, by the way, where are you located?
I'm in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Okay.
Which I always laugh because, you know, Michigan is shaped like a mitten. I turn it this way. And Kalamazoo is right here. We're halfway between Detroit and Chicago.
Which is ideal, but that allows you, because I'm sitting here in Maine in my home office and we can connect.
Exactly.
That is the wonderful thing. COVID has found us that we can connect this way. And you are making a difference with responsible people and company this way. So great. So it all started with your childhood leadership education?
Well, so when I started doing this work with the graphic facilitation, I knew I had found my calling. I really had no idea. I honestly really had not ever heard a whole lot about doing these kind of processes. I do have a dance background. In the 80s, I trained aerobics instructors. I traveled all over the country, and that was a lot of facilitation and working with people and meeting people around the world. And then I've just done other things with facilitation, but I've always had a design and a creative niche. My drawing is not visual art. It truly is graphic note taking. So I draw stick figures. I am not, it's to capture the ideas in a graphic form, but it just kind of all blended together. And I was thinking today, you know, with my dance background as well, is that when you're putting a group of people together, there's a lot of choreography that has to go on, you know, setting the stage. Are people comfortable? Who's here? We do pay attention to, when we're in person, you know, where people sit. So there's a lot of choreography that actually goes into this planning as well. So that's really where that kind of started. But in my previous job, we worked with people with disabilities, and we were planning for their futures in the community, outside of assuming that people that have developmental disabilities, like their place is in Special Olympics, or their place is at the day workshop, or their place. Those are all fine things. Those matter. Those are opportunities for people. Those are options, but the broader community is also an option. So I was in and went to train in Toronto with Jack Pierpoint and Linda Kahn in these processes called Maps and Paths. And they were actually developed by a woman named Beth Mount. She is a graphic artist. She's amazing. And she actually, in her studies for social work, took her visual arts background and her social work background and created these processes to work with people. The interesting thing was, every single time I would do a plan for somebody's future, somebody in the room would say, I need someone to do that for me. It usually was somebody getting ready to do a career change, maybe a sibling who was getting ready to go off to college or had just finished college. It might be a parent who's getting ready to retire, maybe a family that's getting ready to move to a new place. And so when I left my previous job, I decided I'm going to hang out my shingle. And yes, I do have some contracts that I do with local agencies with people with disabilities. But I really believe this kind of planning is great for anybody. And as we were just saying, connecting with people, I feel like me starting this business at this time, I really truly am in the right space because people are craving talking to each other and they're craving getting together and they're lost. And we're all trying to figure out how to be with each other again, because we know that the old ways of being, some of those will come back, but a lot of them won't. So how can you get individuals who are transitioning out of this COVID experience? I know a lot of women who stopped working because their children were home. So now how are they going to transition back into the world? And I also know that there are small businesses in particular, they're trying to figure out how do we navigate being back in the workplace together. And there are no best practices. There's no books that have been written about how to come out of COVID. So I believe that, as Margaret Wheatley says, we need to turn to one another to figure out how we're going to move forward.
Oh, that is so, so, so true. And helping them understand the possibilities of moving forward. As you say, with the moms, what are they doing now? Now that some companies are asking them to go back into the office when maybe they were finding it more calm and peaceful at home with their kids and working from home. On the other hand, there are plenty of people that said, yes, I'm ready to go back into the office. Please let me get out of here.
Exactly.
So you are dealing with lots of different types of people and working with them where they are in their personalities, where they are. And these graphic facilitation, I love the fact that you're using stick figures because that's what I can understand.
Stick figures and icons. You know, I've learned, I have, I actually keep I call it my vocabulary of icons. So for example, you know, I have a typical thing I'm going to draw that's a house. I have different symbols that I've learned how to draw for different people of different faith-based organizations. I've learned how to draw like a little dog and a little cat. I have some symbols that I've learned to draw that are like different kinds of work. Like if somebody works with a shovel, or if somebody is an artist, or if somebody is in music. It's kind of like a vocabulary of notes that I do practice because I'm on this, you know, I'm doing this as people are talking. So I can't, you know, stop and figure out, well, what am I going to draw for that? And so oftentimes when I meet with people prior to doing a plan, I listen to what they're talking about, what they're wanting to do with their life, and what are some icons I might want to have, as I say, in my back pocket to pull out, so that I can pay attention to what they're saying and draw without having to get stuck with, oh, I don't know how to draw that. I do use words too. If all else fails, I'll write a word. And I usually label everything anyway, just because I have drawn a few things that we're not quite sure what they are. So I put a good word.
I love it. I love it. I know. Yeah. And you don't compare yourself to somebody else who might be able to draw beautifully. The bottom line is getting the message out there and not the artistic ability that may be there. It's the message that is so important for all of us to hear. And you seem to be able to do that, which is absolutely amazing. And so you plan with people first. It sounded like you talk to them first so that you have an idea of what icons to do when you actually start working with them. Is that correct? Right.
Particularly when working with small groups or an individual, I do need to have a sense of what are some issues that might come up? What are they kind of looking for? What crossroads are they at? I like to find out a little bit more of the background of what the backstory is. I also like to find out what are some of their thoughts about where they see things in the future. Because what I found is that, especially with individuals, if you walk in and you have somebody sitting in front of you and you say, okay, tell me your vision. Well, I know for me, that's like a deer in the headlights. It's taken me some time to, create the vision that I could say to somebody out loud, because sometimes if people are at a crossroad and really don't know what is next for me, then I can talk through it with them. They might get some ideas, and I actually do some graphic notes from that. And then the other thing to find out is their story, because oftentimes in planning processes, with a group or with a person, we don't spend a little bit of time to talk about and actually have it graphically depicted as part of it, is how did we get to where we are right now? And often that will lead to some of the indicators of what are the gifts and skills that this person brings because of their backstory. So they don't have to tell me their entire biography, but I have some questions where it's more specific to maybe what the vision is that they've told me. So tell me more about, what you might have done toward that, so I get an idea of the story. So that would be some of the things that I would do prior to meeting. I also like to find out from people what are some ground rules. There are some people that have things in their backstory, and maybe they have invited friends or family from the community, and they're like, I don't want to go there. And so I can know if somebody brings up that topic, I can say, we've already discussed that. That's part of the past, and we're going to move forward, so that we don't have, somebody's aunt saying, well, if you hadn't gotten divorced, or, whatever it might be, we just kind of, no, that's not helping us move forward. So I can facilitate around that. So sometimes that's an important piece as well.
Yeah, that is an important piece, isn't it? Because it's good to know about the past so you can relate it to perhaps the present and being
Right.
mindful of where you are presently, but it
Mhm.
is not going to move you forward if you
Right.
are constantly in the past. You cannot
Right.
move forward. So I love that. I love that. That is
And
the
it
way you do things with people.
Yeah, and it kind of gives the group the opportunity to have a little bit of time with that, because otherwise, as you're trying to move forward, you can get into the, well, remember when's, and I can say, well, we already talked about the story. We're going into this next part of the planning process.
And yet, again, it's very important to know some of the past, to know what you skipped over,
Right.
what you didn't do.
Right, exactly.
And now you have an opportunity to do it with success.
Right.
So are you going to, do you remember what you did then so we don't repeat it now?
Exactly.
Sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to
Oh,
back
I love
up a
that.
little bit about, I wanted to say a couple
Yeah.
things about the graphic piece.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
when you're doing a plan like this, the vision, and I won't get into all kinds of brain development, but when people are sitting as a group, oftentimes in planning, you might have easel paper up, but a lot of times people are shuffling papers. And if you can get everyone focused on, we're drawing one whole picture, that actually it triggers our brain to help remember what we talked about. It helps us remember, as we're moving from one section of the planning to the next, what we've talked about, so that we can refer back to the different pieces. So there really is while the visual picture some people say it looks pretty, it looks cool, there really is a practical reason for using graphic facilitation. So I didn't want to miss that.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad. And please feel free to go back anytime. That's great. That's great. So creating that graphic plan, it is actually even better than the vision board, isn't it? That I teach my clients to use the vision board, but
right. And this is just my experience. So you may do vision boards very differently because I haven't had an opportunity to do a vision board with you. But
oh, well, we have to remedy that, don't we?
There you go. So I've seen a lot of my friends do vision boards in various ways, you know, doing a collage or a painting, or even like doing a vision on a jar, you know, a glass jar using glass paint or things like that. And those are awesome. What I like to say is that through these processes, you're going to actually do visually looking at, okay, what are my next steps to get to that vision? And you started me down the path of talking about people first. And I like to say, I'll just be brief on this. There's kind of three ways to plan. There's crisis planning, which I don't do that because that's a whole other thing when there's a crisis. But a lot of strategic planning I've found in my experience in different organizations is people do kind of define where they want to go, but often it's kind of prescribed. And so you may have your vision board and you want to get there. The step that gets missed, in my opinion, is taking the time and really talking about what are the gifts, skills, and knowledge of the person that's doing the vision board. And sometimes it's obvious. I mean, they wouldn't have thought of doing, let's say they want to open a store where it's all knitting and stitching things. Well, obviously that person probably has a gift, skill, and knowledge in that. But to back up and really talk about it and capture it as part of the vision. And also having, if it's an individual, having members of their group maybe add to their vision. Maybe there's some things that they didn't even think about, or maybe there's some things that they're like, oh, maybe that's not really what I wanted. This is more of what I wanted, because sometimes your friends and family may see something that you don't. So we're starting with the people as we're creating the vision. And again, if you're working with a business, a lot of times, you know, we've got the business bottom line, which that's a real thing. But, you know, what do we want to be in the world? What do we want to be known for in the world with our business? And if you can get the group to be talking about that, and then you start with talking about who's in the room, whose gifts, skills, and knowledge do we have, then you're going to end up with, when we get to the action steps, really looking as a group, what capacities do we have to get there, and who's got the best capacity to do some of those things. So one example that I use is that a lot of times in businesses, or even in a group, if you're working with an individual, the people that have shown up, they're there because of a certain position. And so obviously we're assuming if they're in that position, they're going to have certain knowledge of the person. They're going to have certain knowledge and skills in what they're able to do. But when we do this kind of work, you can find out, oh, so the woman who's doing her knitting store, you know, she's got somebody on her staff that's a good knitter and she hired them, but that person's also a graphic artist. So maybe that's the person that's going to put together the website. And if you don't stop and have those conversations, sometimes you don't even know what assets you have in the room with you. And so we go from there to figuring out what are our action steps, who's going to do what by where, and then people also have an understanding of how their role truly fits into contributing to the vision that we're working toward.
I love that. So do you have a questionnaire or something, or does this all just come out in conversation when you're in a group? So for example, yeah, I am the best knitter in the world. Mind you, I'm not. I don't know how to knit at all, but I enjoy graphics. I'm not a graphic designer, but I enjoy graphics and I play with it and I have a good time with it. You wouldn't know that from my Awesome Life Success program.
Right. So I don't really have a pre-questionnaire. I do somewhat for if I'm working with an individual or obviously a small group, but it emerges as we're doing the plan. So, okay. And that's usually, I call that the kind of the popcorn time, because I don't try to draw a picture of everyone's gift, skill, and knowledge. I do a lot more just writing of words. Let me tell you, there is a tool that I use with groups if we're kind of stuck there, is I call it heart, head, and hands. And again, you just put some pieces of paper up on the wall, heart, head, and hands, and people list what their talents are, either with their passion, which is your heart, your skills, which is things you know what you can do well enough to teach, and what your knowledge is. And sometimes those things all cross, but and then for some groups, I actually have to put them in small groups and talk to each other, because as you know from working with people, sometimes people don't really know what their gifts are until other people name them for them. So if people are
Absolutely
stuck, then we can do that. That might be an activity that I might do, not so much with an individual, but with a team, let's say in preparation for doing a path, so that they can come to the table and say, we already know we have these resources. So it wouldn't necessarily be a form that they would fill out. It would actually be an activity that we might do.
excellent. Excellent. Yeah, the path and map that you're laying out there is so intricate, really, without being totally intricate. You're making it kind of fun and bringing things to people's attention. And as you were speaking, I was thinking, relating it to me, as we always do. How does this conversation relate it to me? And what I realized was, on all of my tests, everything, I was supposed to be a teacher. And I went to school to be a teacher. I am not a teacher as far as I was concerned at the time. Elementary education was not my thing. Even high school and junior high education was not my thing. And so all of these aptitude tests, all of these quizzes and whatnot, I was a teacher. And yet, what am I doing? I am teaching you to have a better mindset, to create a six-figure mindset. I am a teacher. It's just a different kind of teaching. And it's something I've had my whole life, and I rejected it. Totally rejected it. And you are helping people recognize that if it is a skill that shows up through your whole life, maybe there's a better way of using that skill.
Exactly. That's a great example. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. So do you have any other tools that you use to?
You know, it's funny, I do, and some of these are going to seem somewhat like, really, but I do. One that's been very helpful is to have people do, what's your weekly routine? And then we draw it out. Because I was just working, I've done a couple actually of, I call them solution circles. That's one of the processes I use with a couple of women who've started their business, getting a little overwhelmed. And I don't know how to prioritize, you know, what I'm going to do. And so we literally I said, well, let's just draw out your weekly routine. That did two things. One, it helped them look at the bigger picture of when they do have time. The other thing is it helped them identify people in their community that they might want to invite to be part of their solution circle. It may be somebody that they have as an acquaintance that, oh, well, I know that person does this kind of work, so maybe I should invite them to my circle. It's only, you know, those are really quick. Those take about an hour. And you know what, people come. So, and I'm going to I'm sure I'll talk a little bit more about building your community, but sometimes that can be just, and I know people have their planners, but it's different when you talk through it and have somebody drawing on a piece of paper what your week looks like, so you can see the crunches and the spaces. And then another tool that I like to use is what works, what doesn't work. Mm-hmm. Again, and that could be in a preparation thing, like somebody, they're stuck, or I'm trying to work towards the future, this is happening, this isn't. So those might be more tools in preparation for doing the map or the path. So yeah, that's a couple things. I know those seem really simple, but when you meet with me and we're putting it down on a piece of paper visually and they can see it, it's a lot different than looking at your calendar and and so you can see if you, like I use Google Calendar, I can see where the spaces are, but when you have to draw it down, it comes, you can see a lot more clearly.
It's a different use. You can look at Google Calendar, but many times, for example, I look at my scheduler and somebody will say, well, when are you free? And I'm looking at my scheduler and no, I'm not free at any time. And then I realize, wait a minute, Wednesday's not even on my schedule. And I'm totally free on Wednesday. Yeah, okay. You don't always see things the same way. And sometimes you can see things better with pictures.
Right.
Or from listening or whatever. That's why colors, drawings, music makes such a difference, not just the audio or the written word.
Right.
That creates that inner transformation that can occur no matter where you are. So, and I love solution circle. I love that.
So I can tell people how to do a solution circle. It doesn't take a whole lot of facilitation or graphic design skill, but basically there's 5 steps to a solution circle. And this is if you've just got like one issue that you're really trying to figure out. So you invite people to be part of your solution circle, and it's very prescribed. So after you get everybody gathered, Zoom or in person, the first 6 minutes, the person with the issue has 6 minutes to talk about what is the issue they're trying to address. A problem, maybe they're stuck on something, maybe they need a new idea. So they get 6 minutes and nobody else can talk. And sometimes there's silence during that time. And I always say that's okay, because the person may blurt out all of this stuff, but if they get that little bit of time, sometimes toward the end of the 6 minutes, a few more nuggets will come out. Then for the next 6 minutes, the group gets to talk and the person has to be quiet. So the group is not going to start solving the problem at that point. What they're really going to be doing is talking about what did they hear the person say was the issue. Maybe they've noticed within that issue, the person already has some resources they could use. Maybe the person already has been doing some things. Just kind of what did they hear the person saying without really jumping into the solution. And then the third part, for 6 minutes, the entire group, the person and the people, they just talk. Clarifying questions. The person may have some insights, more insights they want to share. So it's just a conversation, kind of a free-for-all. Then the fourth step is where we list 3 to 5 steps that the person would be willing to do. And that's really key, because I love this process because I don't allow people as a facilitator to should on the other person. So it's realistically, what might they try? What are some possible things they can do, rather than you should do this or you should do that, or have you tried this? That's the other, basically you're saying you should do this. It's more, given the information you had, what the person said, what the resources that are here, what are 3 to 5 steps they could really take? And the person has to be in agreement. And then the 5th step is finding that next step that's going to take you to the next place. And it's something that you're going to do in the next 24 hours to 2 days. So that first step may lead you to the other steps that you defined in step 4, but this is kind of a launching pad step. And I've done a couple of these recently, and it was interesting. There was a woman, she's trying to figure out what should I work on first? I've gone to these trainings, I'm getting new clients, I'm starting a blog, I'm doing, what do I need to do first? And so as we talked through it and with her team, ultimately her first step was to set one day where she was not doing anything, and that was her planning day. It was her day to set aside on a weekly basis to prioritize. Was that what she thought her solution would be? No, she thought the answer was going to be either doing her blog first, or this or that. No, it was And she agreed. And so, you know what? She set aside time once a week. She doesn't schedule any clients, and that's her day to plan. She does do some of her writing for like her blog or content for her social media, but that's her day. And it changed. She'll tell you it kind of changed her life. And that is not at all what she thought the answer would be when she came in. She thought she was going to figure out what one of those things she needed to do first.
Isn't that cool? I love it when that happens. It really is true. You need to give yourself permission to take the time to do that planning, to do that learning, to examine what's going on. And there's also the permission to enjoy life. You can't have an awesome life unless you're having fun doing it. So like I was telling Allison earlier, I'm wearing my fun earrings because whenever I wear hoops usually, unless I am ready to have fun. And whenever I put them on, I use my hoop earrings that just tells my brain at this point, oh, okay, this is just going to be a fun time. And that's what I love this podcast to be. And the other cool thing that is always beneficial is putting on an essential oil called In Tune. And In Tune creates more focus. So I have more focused fun. And it's awesome. Recognizing what you can do just by giving yourself permission and writing it in your calendar if you want to take that day. To do this, or having a sacred day. So I have my sacred day, which is simply a day during the week to do whatever I want. Now that could be talking to clients, that could be studying and learning, it could be going for a walk. Or having coffee with friends, or going on a boat. It could be anything. It is my day to do whatever my little heart desires. So that is giving yourself permission to have that. So, thank you so much, Allison. It is such a pleasure to have you here and learning more about response-able people and company. So clear, so needed by so many. Like you say, I could feel my hand going up saying, yes, I want this too. So how can people get in touch with you?
Sure. Well, I do have a website. It's called responseablepeople.com. And you can also, I have a blog there. You can check out my blog. There's lots of I do video clips, and then you can read them as well about different processes, some different things about my philosophy, but also just some tips about why working with people first is important. I also have a Facebook page, Response Able People. You can find me on Facebook, and you can email me at allison@responseablepeople.com. And a really great way is if you contact me any of those ways, I do use a tool called Calendly, and I would love to have a conversation with anybody. I've got that link is on my Facebook page. You can find it. I do post it on my website, or if you contact me, I will send you one. And we can just have a conversation about how some planning, or where you are in your life and what kind of a process I might be able to offer you. That would be, I'd love to do that.
Oh, that is wonderful. And indeed, I will have it in your description of this podcast, the links for Allison's website, and to have that 1 hour conversation to get clear and see how you can be a responsible person. I love it. Thank you again, Allison, for joining us today. And until next time, Have an awesome life. It is your birthright. Bye-bye for now.
Bye, thanks.